The Yankees dropped the series to the Mariners, winning game 1, but losing games 2 and 3 to fall 2-1, and then go 4-3 on a 7-game homestand before heading out on the road for 9 games against St. Louis, Seattle, and Boston. But Brian, I want to take us back to game 1. You talk about that game between the Yankees and the Mariners. The Yankees, they look like the better team to start, 7-2. They get that huge win, and they do so behind Domingo Germán, who had been struggling all season, but he gives you 5 innings, only 2 earned runs, and only 3 walks as well. But the hitting showed up. Aaron Judge, he cranks his 43rd home run. So a lot of positives coming away from that game 1 win that the Yankees had.
Yeah, it was a really good start to the series. I thought it was kind of going to set the tone for the series and kind of they would carry that over. That did not happen, obviously, but this game 1, there was a lot to like. You mentioned Domingo Germán. He had an okay start. He walked 3 batters and gave up 6 hits, but each start so far this season, he's made 3 starts and each has been better than the last. This one, he got his first win in over a year, 5 innings, just giving up 2 runs. So he was able to accomplish that. And the offense did more than enough in this one. They kept slugging the home run ball, 4 homers in this game for the Yankees. Anthony Rizzo got it going right away. You mentioned Aaron Judge. He just continues to tear the cover off the baseball. 43 home runs, and we're on August 3rd. It's remarkable what he's doing. And then Jose Trivino had 2 homers, his 8th and 9th of the season. So ultimately, this was a very easy night for the Yankees. There was never really any doubt that they were going to pull this one out. And the bullpen did a great job as well. Marinaccio, Chapman, Loaizaga, and Wandy Peralta getting them to the finish line. This was ultimately a game that the Yankees, it was a good start to the series, and there were no complaints overall. Every aspect of the game kind of went in their favor, and it served as a nice way to start the series, and ultimately one of the only real high points of this 3-game set with Seattle.
And you go to game 2, the Yankees lose 8-6. That kind of started the turn in this series. Josh Donaldson, he had a big day, seemed to break out of his early season slump with a double and a home run. And the Yankees went down early. They went down 4-0. They climbed back, tied up 6-6, but they end up losing it 8-6 in a really tough loss that set the tone for the rest of the series. But it still wasn't as bad as game 3. And you seem to think that they still could turn things around in game 3, but they still end up losing the series.
Yeah, this was not a great night, especially for the pitching staff. The offense did what they could. They battled all night, but the pitching staff, it's been a concern in recent weeks, and especially now with some of the trades that they've made. You look at the starting pitching, you see Jamison Tyone going 4 2/3, giving up 5 earned runs and walking 4 batters. That's not what you want out of him. And he's been on a real inconsistent stretch as of late. That ERA, which was down in the 2.3s at one point in the season, now all of a sudden it's close to 4. So he's had a rough go of it as of late, but he was the only pitcher that really struggled in this one. The highlight for me of this game was the 2 guys that made their Yankee debuts, and we'll talk about the trades as a whole later, but Scott Efros and Lou Trivino both made their Yankees debut and both looked very sharp. They each only went 2/3 of an inning, so not a whole lot of a sample to really kind of gauge their performance, but so far you can't really complain about them. And the offense, once again, very good. It was their 2nd straight night with 10 hits or more, and another night with a lot of home runs. Anthony Rizzo homered again, so he had his 4th straight game with a home run, just the 2nd time he's done that in his career. And it was encouraging to see Josh Donaldson have a good night. You know, he had 2 hits and 3 RBIs. He's really struggled as of late, so to have him have a nice performance, that's got to make you feel good. And Jose Trevino keeps hitting the home run ball, and he keeps having a good season, keeps building upon that season. So it was a tough loss, but ultimately a lot to like, and you felt good going to game 3. But as you know, you were there today, that really wasn't the case.
Yeah, and you talk about it, they get the loss in game 2, but there were definitely some positives, but you really didn't see much of that at all in game 3. Only 5 hits from the offense, and 4 of which came from your 8-9 hitters, Kiner Falefa and Kyle Higashioka. Judge got the day off, so you lost his bat in the lineup. But you're really supposed to win this game. Garrett Cole's your ace on the mound. I know you're going up against Luis Castillo, who is phenomenal. He got 8 strikeouts and 6 2/3 innings, only allowing 3 earned runs. But Garrett Cole, things fall apart for him in that first inning, allows 6 runs, all on home runs, three home runs in that inning. So that was really the difference maker there. And that inconsistency has just been the story of his season so far. This is what he had to say after the game about his performance this year.
Summing up the season, like there's been good ones, there's been bad ones. The numbers are what the numbers are. Like I'm just trying to stay on the same drumbeat of just trying to get better every week. And sometimes there aren't answers for stuff that happens in this game, but there are some things that I think that we can be doing better, and we're grinding to do that. And so in terms of the overall season, right now I'm looking to try to continue to improve. We've had good ones. We've had clunkers. We've gotten baseballed. But we're trying to take all those things that we learned from those games and keep trying to get better. So, the numbers are where the numbers are. We got to be performing the way we want to perform, that level of excellence by the time October comes. So.
Yeah, I mean, that first inning, he gave up 3 homers in the first inning, and all of a sudden you blink and it's 6-0 Yankees. So, and yeah, seeing this out of your ace, and we'll mention you just traded a starting pitcher. You just traded Jordan Montgomery. We'll get into all that in a bit. Luis Severino's out. He's going to be out until September. So the Yankees really need their starting pitching to kind of pick up the slack. And it starts with Garrett Cole. He's got to be the ace that they want him to be. And for the most part, he has been. But today, he absolutely was not. You can't give up 6 earned against a team that offensively, the Seattle Mariners, they're not a very good offensive team.
No, and I think we saw the Mariners offense look a lot better than it really has been. You think about Julio Rodriguez, their dynamite, their phenom rookie was not even in the lineup for this series, and they still look like a much better hitting team. And I guess, Brian, I don't want to cut you off, but when you look forward to this team, it's hard not to be worried a little bit about the pitching. And I know the team probably as a whole got better, but you lost Jordan Montgomery, and I know you brought in 2 other arms in Frankie Montas and Trivino, but this pitching is not the same pitching that it was at the beginning of the year. And I guess that's a little worrisome for some Yankee fans.
It's got to be. And ultimately, you couldn't really expect the pitching to stay the course that it was, because they were performing at a historic rate, all 5 of those guys. And it came back down to earth a little bit, but now you're seeing Garrett Cole. He had a tough start today, and then all of a sudden you get flashbacks to late last season. Is he going to be the guy that they need him to be come October? Is Nestor, is he able to, his workload's been a question. Is he going to continue to do this down the stretch, and can he pitch in the playoffs? Frankie Montas, he's never pitched in a playoff game in his life. And then you have Jameson Taillon, who has been inconsistent, and Severino's coming off of an injury. So the starting rotation, it looked like a sure thing at the start of the season, and now we fast forward to August, and it doesn't really seem that way.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the worry, and you take it back to game 2 as well. Jameson Taillon, 4 2/3 innings. He gets 6 runs, 5 of those earned, 4 walks in just under 5 innings. That stat line is also concerning. Not only is Cole struggling, but Jameson Taillon, someone who's been up and down all year, now close to a 4 ERA. He's a little bit shaky. Luis Severino on the IL, hoping to get him back to by September, but it's starting to get a little worrisome. I think the depth that you had at the beginning of the year, you don't really have as much anymore, especially losing Jordan Montgomery. And I think that also worries a lot of Yankees fans, not just the top of the guys, but it's just the depth as a whole. And I think that's something that we're going to monitor going forward. And you look at the Yankees upcoming schedule, they got 9 games total on the road. St. Louis Cardinals, they got 3 games there. Then they go to Seattle. They play the Mariners again for 3 games. And then they go to Fenway Park to play the Boston Red Sox to finish off the road trip. So those are some playoff caliber teams. I know Boston's been slipping a lot since the All-Star break. They were one of the sellers at the deadline, but St. Louis, they were buyers. They have your starting pitcher in Jordan Montgomery, who you're probably going to face, and the Seattle Mariners, who have Luis Castillo now, who you just saw, and they were a tough beat. They won that series in Bronx, and now you're going to have to go back there to Seattle. So there are some tough games for this Yankees team, and I think these 9 games are important for really cementing them as the leader in the AL, because that Astros lead, they're only 2 games up in the best record in the AL. So this is a huge 9-game road trip coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. There are no layups at all coming up. And you're going to have to see these Mariners again. And as you saw Luis Castillo today, he threw the ball really well. And given how his rest is going to line up, you're probably going to see him again at the start of next week. So can they rebound and can they hit him? The Mariners have a pretty good pitching rotation. And I know they ripped Logan Gilbert last night. The Yankees offense did, but he's going to be really good. He's going to be throwing the ball well. And then you add Castillo and Robbie Ray. There's a lot of good options here. And then you mentioned St. Louis. St. Louis always going to hang around in the playoff conversation and playing them on the road. And then, as you mentioned, the Red Sox as a whole, You mentioned they've been slipping, but they'll always play the Yankees tough. They're always going to play, especially at Fenway too. So it's a real chance for the Yankees to face some good teams. We've seen them kind of slip against really top tier teams. They've lost the season series to the Astros and they dropped 2 games to the Mets. So this series, I kind of see it as a way to kind of shift that narrative that they can hang with the big teams and they can hang with the teams that they could see down the road in October. So I think this is a really important 9-game trip coming up, as you said.
The Yankees, they're 6-8 since the All-Star break, but they're still 11 games up in the AL East, a 70-36 record. Brian, thanks so much for doing this recap of the Seattle Mariners and Yankees series. They'll hope to bounce back on this 9-game road trip, but continue to follow us at WFUV Sports for updates all season long. And once again, from Michael Calamari and Brian Rabacs, thank you so much for tuning in.